Hi, I'm Jerry Elfendahl, and for the last 2 years I've been a member of a group called Friends of Cannery Cove that have been trying to preserve and enhance the history and culture and safe water access at Cannery Cove. Some people wonder why we're still at this. And let's go back, if you will, a decade. And we in the state got into the Shoreline Management Act. And to help Bainbridge Island assess how they could best improve their shorelines, a $206,000 grant was given to the city to have Battelle Institute marine scientists characterize all of our shorelines, assess them, and give us a management priority strategy. And all around Bainbridge Island, the shorelines were broken up into 201 different sections or reaches. The Battelle scientists looked at various factors that they knew they could see and measure, and came up with a way of categorizing all of the properties, and they broke them up into 20th percentiles. So let's just say here's a box that represents the 20 worst shorelines on Bainbridge Island. Well, what would those worst shorelines be? They would include some of the shoreline in Eagledale, some of the shoreline at Bill Point where the Superfund site was, some areas on Lower Madison, and right next door, Sunday Cove, where there was a dredged marina. Places like that. Now, we won't go into why they felt this was a high impact shore, but these are places that were typical of those that were in the worst 20%. Now, among those, it was said that Strawberry Cannery Cove was one of them. Now you're going to see what happens. This turned out to be an error, but that's where they put it, and the worst. Okay? Now let's take a look at some of those shorelines that were in the next group of 40. And these included the Winslow Waterfront Park, Linwood Center, and the Ferry Maintenance Yard, and others. And these were in the next to the high, moderate impact, and 60 to 80%. Okay? In the middle group on the island were places like Holly Cove Wetlands, Treasure Island, Rockaway Beach, and Manitou Beach. These were all rated moderate, and they were in the 40th to 60th percentile. Getting up into the areas of lower moderate impact in our 20 to 40th percent, we had places like Blakely Harbor Park in Shell Shelve Estuary that was restored by Gail Kuhl several years ago. Now we have the top 20%. These top 40, if you will, all have low impact shorelines, and they look like this. The mouth of Manitou Creek is one of the very best. Our 2 state parks ranked high. The head of Manzanita Bay, the head of Fletcher Bay, the head of Port Blakely Harbor, Mill Pond, and the Strawberry Cannery Park, Port Madison, Water Company Beach, Battle Point, Restoration Point. These were all among low impact beaches and were said to be our very best. Now, even though this is an industrial site, it is still good functioning habitat. We could not understand how this property got falsely characterized as 186 worst. And when we looked at the Seattle phone book size study that was done by the Battelle Institute, lo and behold, we discovered that a simple error had been made 5 years ago and repeated continually since then, when in actuality, the Strawberry Cannery Park was not the 186 worst, but in fact was tied for 40th of the best properties. So let's see if we can go up here and push the Strawberry where it actually belongs. So now the question is, we're spending $1 million to clean up something that maybe doesn't need to be cleaned up. So that's 2004 Battelle Institute data. That's where the Strawberry Cannery ranks, and the project to clean this park up only purports to be able to get it up into that 20th percentile. But however, Since 2005, some things have been done to improve this park. What are they? Well, one of them is in February of 2009, the DNR came in and removed 110 creosote pilings out of the park, make this even higher ranking. Now, in addition, every property in Eagle Harbor in the Battelle study was automatically given the worst ranking for pollution. And that was because of Superfund sites at the entrance to the harbor. We have found current studies that were done years ago when they were planning the sewer plant in Winslow that show that the currents and waters from out there rarely get into the back bay, that the back bay is an outward flushing system. And we would suggest that the waters in the back bay are cleaner and therefore don't justify having the worst ranking. So I think we have to raise this up a little higher. Now, additionally, there have been a couple of clam studies and shellfish studies. We had students growing oysters hanging from the Cannery Cove pier, and we've had recent clam samples taken into the laboratory for analysis. The initial review of both of those indicate that the clams are clean, which tend to support the idea of the current. So let's just say we maybe raise it another little bit. And so the question is, exactly what are we getting for our $1 million that it was supposed to help clean up the environment and provide habitat for fish if we're already there? This site offers so much to this community that to freeze it exclusively and forever for fish habitat, we just don't think makes any sense at all. And right now we feel that this park offers people more by way of recreational opportunities, educational opportunities, than if it was all excavated and submerged, because that's the plan. And if you look across here, there's a white line, and what that shows is that's the new shoreline if the city has their way. They hope to excavate everything to seaward. All the beautiful sea meadows that now can accommodate many families, and which the city plan only replaces with a narrow walkway for a viewpoint if the park district has $250,000 to build it, and there's no money in the city plan for design or construction of that. We wouldn't be here today had it not been for the love and generosity of the late John Nelson, the Swedish immigrant who gave us all his homestead for a public park at a time when the city had none. We have parks in Port Madison, Hidden Cove Park, that would be worthless to us without a ramp and the float that is there. Yet here in the heart of town, where it is said we're going to have 300 more people living on Government Way in the next few years, why would we want to destroy and eliminate and minimize this park? So I hope you take the time to study this issue. It's not a simple one, but by golly, it's worthwhile and worth your time, and I hope you talk to your council people and let them know how you feel. And so on the 4th of July, when you hear us coming, we're going to expect you to sing, "This park is your park, this park is my park, from towering forests to shoreside meadows, from Strawberry Valley to harbor waters. This park was made for you and me." Thanks to John Nelson. See it, bring a friend down here, save it, talk to your councilman.